Today, we're turning back the clock to Tokyo, Japan. In the early 2000s, the setting of a case that shocked the world. A British flight attendant suddenly vanished without a trace in this glamorous capital city. The case stirred such an uproar that even the prime ministers of both the UK and Japan had to step in. After a tense and dramatic investigation, the culprit was finally brought to justice. But what shocked people even more was the realization that this disappearance was just the tip of the iceberg. So what really happened that year? And what horrifying secrets was the killer hiding behind his actions? Let's dive into one of the most mysterious cases and uncover the chilling truth together. And as always, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. Our story begins in Tokyo, one of the most vibrant cities in Japan. Tokyo isn't just the economic, political, and cultural center of the land of the rising sun. It's also considered the heart of the entire East Asian region, with a population of over 38 million, accounting for nearly 1/3 of Japan's total population. Tokyo is always bustling and full of life. It's a melting pot of cultures from across the globe. Amid this glamorous metropolis lies a unique district called Roppongi, a neighborhood famous for its lively nightlife and home to more foreign embassies than anywhere else in the city. For years, Roppongi has drawn countless foreigners to live and work, turning the area into a vibrant pocket of international culture. The central figure in today's case is Lucy Blackman, a young woman born and raised in a well-off family in the United Kingdom. From a young age, Lucy was surrounded by love and care from her family. She stood out with her long golden hair, striking beauty, and stylish appearance. After graduating from university, Lucy took a job at an investment bank, but she quickly grew bored with office life. She decided to change her work environment and took advantage of her attractive appearance to become a flight attendant for the renowned airline British Airways. At first, being a flight attendant brought Lucy a sense of excitement and novelty, but it wasn't long before she grew weary of the repetitive routines on long-haul flights. Lucy was assigned to the economy cabin, where she had to deal with countless small tasks and demanding passengers every day, all of which gradually left her feeling completely exhausted. Moreover, Lucy's lifelong habit of spending recklessly had landed her in serious financial trouble. She loved shopping for expensive designer items, handbags, shoes, cosmetics. Everything had to be luxurious and high-end. Although a flight attendant's salary wasn't low, Lucy no longer wanted to rely on her family. As a result, not only was she unable to save any money, but she also ended up buried in debt, having to pay off debt while still dreaming of traveling the world. Lucy felt truly stuck. It was during a conversation with her close friend, Louise Phillips, that she heard Japan was an amazing place to make a lot of money in a short amount of time. This immediately sparked Lucy's curiosity. Louise shared that her sister Emma had once gone to Japan to work for a short time and came back with a sizable amount of money. The exact job wasn't clear, just that it involved working as a hostess at some kind of bar. As soon as Lucy heard this, she was immediately drawn in by the promising prospect. She realized this could be her chance, a way to pay off her debts while also traveling and experiencing a foreign country. Though she had never set foot in Japan and didn't know a single word of Japanese, that didn't matter anymore. Lucy immediately started planning her new adventure, unaware that this decision would change her life forever. Not knowing the language wasn't a big deal for Lucy and Louise. The two young women acted on impulse and went for it right away. Lucy had always been a pampered daughter, without much thought. She quickly quit her job as a flight attendant, but Lucy's parents were unhappy with her decision. They always saw Japan as a strange and dangerous place, even going so far as to hide her passport to stop her. However, having been pampered since childhood, Lucy knew exactly how to persuade her parents to see things her way. In the end, the two young women successfully obtained 90-day tourist visas and took a non-stop 13-hour flight from London to Tokyo. officially beginning their 3-month dream journey. Before leaving, Lucy was curious and looked up some information about Japan online. She learned that Japan had been stuck in an economic downturn for nearly a decade since the 1990s. Lucy expected to see a gloomy, declining country, but the scene that greeted her was completely the opposite. When night fell, Tokyo's Roppongi district transformed into a bustling, vibrant world, glowing with bright lights, filled with bars, nightclubs, and karaoke spots that never seemed to close. Every evening after work, thousands of Japanese men flocked here to unwind. Mixed in with them were countless foreigners living in the area, creating an atmosphere that was both lively and chaotic. This was exactly where Louise and Lucy arrived. Since Louise's sister Emma had worked here before, their accommodation was already arranged by her. The two foreign girls had barely stepped onto the street when they immediately became the center of attention. At that time, Western women were highly sought after here, especially those with fair skin. Before long, someone approached them, offering to introduce job opportunities. Just like that, Lucy and Louise quickly became hostesses at a fairly well-known club in Roppongi called Casablanca. To put it simply, this place was like a bar, but unlike the usual noisy bars, Casablanca opened from early evening and stayed open until the early morning hours, with a mostly calm atmosphere focused on conversation. The main job of the two hostesses was simply to sit, chat, and drink with the customers. Their income mainly came from the time spent with customers and a percentage of the commission on drinks purchased. Especially, this club placed great importance on its reputation. Hostesses were strictly forbidden from having any personal relationships with customers. However, if a customer felt a good connection and wanted to take a hostess out for dinner or a private party, they had to register directly with the club, which would then assign a hostess to accompany them. This method was very transparent, and the hostesses also earned higher income. Of course, the basic rule was that neither side could cross any boundaries. According to the experience passed down by longtime hostesses, to make really good money, it wasn't just about having an attractive appearance. It was more important to have deep knowledge, be good at communication, know how to listen, and even understand a bit of psychology to please the customers. But Louise and Lucy didn't need to worry too much about those skills right from the start. Their looks were their biggest advantage here. Fair-skinned girls with blonde hair and tall figures were always highly valued. Because of that, as soon as they began working, the two quickly became the center of attention. The club's customers always looked forward to chatting and drinking with these two beautiful hostesses. Over the following days in Tokyo, Lucy and Louise gradually got used to their reversed day and night lifestyle. Working as hostesses brought the two young women a pretty good income. On average, each night they could pocket between $150 and $400, not including extra tips and gifts from customers. Quite a few men outside the club also had a special fondness for the two young women and often asked them to join their tables for drinks and conversation. Occasionally, Lucy and Louise were invited by regular customers to go out for dinner or attend private dates that were completely innocent. However, despite the generous income, it was still a pretty demanding job. They had very little personal freedom. Everything had to follow the club's schedule. Even when they were tired and wanted to rest, if a customer requested, they still had to put on a smile and keep the conversation going. By March of that year, Lucy had fully adapted to life in Tokyo. During that time, she also started dating an American soldier named Scott Fraser, who was serving on the USS Kitty Hawk aircraft carrier stationed in Japan. Perhaps it was the happiness from this new relationship, or maybe because her 90-day visa was about to expire and she was close to earning a decent amount to return to England. Lucy seemed to have found new motivation to work harder and with more enthusiasm. But then, on July 1st, everything suddenly took a turn. Lucy received an invitation to dinner from a regular customer at a seaside restaurant. This customer even promised to give her a brand new mobile phone. Lucy happily accepted the invitation and eagerly went to the meeting. But she never could have imagined that from the moment she stepped out that evening, Lucy would vanish forever into the thick darkness. Actually, that day Lucy was very cautious. She called Louise 3 times to update her situation to ensure her safety. The first call was at 1:30 p.m., then at 5 p.m., and the last one at 7 p.m. During the final call, Lucy was cheerful, saying she was using the very phone the customer had given her, and mentioned she'd be home in about half an hour. Midway, Lucy also tried to call her boyfriend Scott, but couldn't get through, only managing to leave a message saying they would meet the next day. However, after that final call, Louise waited at home, but Lucy never came back. Half an hour passed with no sign of Lucy. Louise anxiously waited for another 2 hours, growing increasingly worried. Louise immediately rushed to the club to tell her colleagues about the situation and seek advice. But the veteran hostesses were all too familiar with such situations. Although the rule forbade staying out overnight, in reality, many people still broke it. The colleagues reassured Louise, advising her to go home and rest. Maybe Lucy would return safely the next morning, as if nothing had happened. However, having been best friends for so long, Louise knew very well that Lucy was not the type to be careless or irresponsible like that. Wherever she went or whatever she did, Lucy would definitely contact her and never disappear without any explanation like this. The more Louise thought about it, the more uneasy she felt, so she went alone to search around the nearby bars. She also asked a friend who spoke Japanese to contact the surrounding hospitals to see if Lucy had had any accidents and was being treated. But despite all those efforts, no trace of Lucy was found. On July 2nd, Louise suddenly received a call from an unknown number. On the other end of the line was the calm voice of a man. He said to Louise, "Lucy has decided to join a new, very popular cult. She is currently at a small house in the Chiba area, undergoing training. Lucy has no intention of coming back anymore. I'm just calling to inform you that she is fine. Don't worry." Before Louise could ask anything more, she only heard the abrupt sound of the call being disconnected on the other end. Louise felt extremely uneasy after that strange phone call. She immediately rushed to the local police station to report Lucy's situation, hoping the authorities would get involved in the search. However, when talking to the police, Louise concealed the information about Lucy's job as a hostess, fearing it might cause her friend more trouble. In response to her concerns, the Japanese police showed a very indifferent attitude. They believed that Lucy was already 21 years old, an adult, and might have simply gone on a short trip or wanted some time alone temporarily. Moreover, the Roppongi area at that time was quite complicated, with tens of thousands of foreigners residing illegally, making it very difficult for the authorities to invest effort in searching for a foreign girl who had only been missing for a few days. Witnessing the indifferent attitude of the Japanese police, Louise clearly knew she couldn't rely on them. She immediately went to the British Embassy to report the full truth, including Lucy's actual job as well as the details surrounding her mysterious disappearance. As soon as they heard that a British citizen was in trouble, the embassy was truly concerned but felt powerless due to a lack of manpower and investigative authority. They immediately reported the situation to the Tokyo police, urging the Japanese side to conduct a search for Lucy. However, when it was revealed that Lucy was a hostess working at a nightclub, they became even less willing to get involved in the investigation. According to records from the Tokyo police, at that time there were about 300,000 illegal foreign residents, of which approximately 1/3 worked in the nighttime entertainment industry, often called Mizu Shobai. Since the burst of Japan's economic bubble, many industries have stagnated. Only the Mizu Shobai sector continued to thrive strongly, leading to foreign girls going missing becoming a common occurrence. Therefore, the Japanese police believed that Lucy's disappearance was nothing unusual, and they were almost unwilling to put much effort into the case. At first, Louise decided to keep the matter secret so as not to worry Lucy's family. However, Seeing the indifference from both the embassy and the police, Louise had no choice but to call and inform her friend's family in the UK. Upon receiving the news, Lucy's entire family was extremely shocked and worried. On July 4th, the first person to fly to Tokyo to search was Sophie, Lucy's younger sister. Meanwhile, her father, Tim Blackman, was busy handling business matters and could not depart immediately. Lucy's mother was even less able to come to Japan, as she had to take care of their youngest son. After Sophie arrived in Tokyo, she felt very unfamiliar with the country. At first, she went to the British embassy, but they told her to go to the Roppongi police to meet the local authorities, after facing disappointment once again because they continued to use the excuse that Lucy was a hostess and were unwilling to actively assist in the search. Sophie felt helpless and had to call her father in England for help. After careful discussion, the father and son finally made the difficult decision to publicly reveal the whole truth to the British media. Although they knew this action would seriously damage the family's reputation for Lucy's life, they had no better choice. Mr. Tim Blackman immediately contacted major media outlets in the UK for assistance. Very quickly, the news of Lucy's disappearance in Japan, along with details about her job as a hostess, was widely published across newspapers and television channels in the UK. The case rapidly became a focal point of public attention, putting significant pressure on the British embassy in Japan. On July 12th, Lucy's father, Mr. Tim Blackman, also flew to Tokyo to reunite with Sophie. The father and daughter held a press conference at the British embassy to release Lucy's photos and offered a large reward for anyone who could provide accurate information. Thanks to continuous media coverage, an anonymous businessman donated £100,000 as a reward for tips leading to Lucy's whereabouts. The Blackman family tirelessly printed and distributed thousands of flyers, posting them all over the streets of Tokyo. They hoped to receive even the smallest piece of information about Lucy's whereabouts. Under increasing public pressure, the Japanese police were forced to take clearer investigative actions. They cooperated with the Casablanca Club to collect testimonies from staff and customers, and also began searching for Lucy's new boyfriend, Scott Fraser, to clarify related details. However, initial investigations showed that the club was not involved in the disappearance. As for Scott, he could not be located at first, and although he later actively participated in the search efforts, his attempts did not yield any positive results. Meanwhile, Lucy's father, Tim Blackman, proposed two very reasonable lines of investigation for the police to consider. The first was to look into the mobile phone Lucy used on the day she disappeared. Notably, this phone was a gift from the mysterious customer who invited her out. In theory, the Japanese police could have traced the phone to find the person who bought it. However, when this was raised, the police refused, citing privacy laws that prevented them from pursuing this lead. They even claimed that the technology to trace the buyer's information for the phone was beyond the capabilities of Japanese telecommunications companies at that time. The second line of investigation focused on the mysterious customer who arranged the meeting with Lucy through the Casablanca Club on the day she disappeared. If Lucy accepted a work request from a customer via the club, then the staff there must have retained at least some information about that customer. But strangely, after the police came to investigate, the club did not provide any useful clues. Realizing that the Japanese police were too indifferent and the investigation was ineffective, Lucy's family was extremely disappointed. Unable to rely on local forces, they decided to take action themselves. With the help of some enthusiastic volunteers from the UK, the family set up a hotline to receive information from the public, hoping to respond quickly and proactively to any leads. However, establishing this hotline was not as easy as the Blackman family had imagined. Although they received thousands of calls providing information, many of these were false rumors. Verifying each call was beyond the family's capacity in terms of both manpower and time. 20 days had swiftly passed since Lucy disappeared. The family was utterly desperate. having tried every possible way but still received no promising news. However, just when everything seemed hopeless, a major event took place in Japan that became a crucial turning point in the case. It was the 26th G8 summit held in Okinawa, Japan, from July 21st to July 23, 2000. At the summit, British Prime Minister Tony Blair was also present. Lucy's family saw this as a valuable opportunity to directly influence the Japanese government. Lucy's father, Mr. Tim Blackman, made every effort to get in touch with British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook and detailed the difficult situation his family was facing. Finally, British Prime Minister Tony Blair agreed to meet with Mr. Blackman and promised to assist him in searching for his daughter. During the meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Mori Yoshiro at the G8 summit, Prime Minister Blair directly raised the issue of the mysterious disappearance of British citizen Lucy Blackman in Tokyo. Realizing that this was no longer an ordinary case, but had become a diplomatic matter between the two countries, the Japanese side immediately took notice and regarded it as a high-priority case requiring urgent resolution. Immediately afterward, Prime Minister Mori personally instructed the police to quickly concentrate their forces and deploy additional personnel to the Roppongi police station to vigorously investigate the case. Over 30,000 posters searching for Lucy were printed and distributed widely throughout Japan. Despite these efforts, the investigation continued to face many obstacles. On August 1st, exactly 1 month after Lucy disappeared, the police unexpectedly received a letter purportedly from her. In the letter, she claimed that she was safe, just taking some time to rest, and would return soon. She asked her family not to worry any further. However, Lucy's family insisted that the handwriting was not hers. Moreover, the letter contained basic English grammar mistakes, which would be highly unlikely for Lucy, who was born and raised in the UK. After thorough investigation, the police concluded that the letter was a hoax. Throughout August, Lucy's family had to fly back and forth many times between the UK and Japan. During this desperate time, they were exploited by a fraudster who promised to reveal information about Lucy in exchange for a ransom of up to $50,000. After paying part of the money, the scammer demanded more, claiming that Lucy had been taken to Hong Kong and that additional funds were needed to rescue her. Sensing something was wrong, Tim Blackman immediately informed the police, and the fraudster was eventually arrested. Sadly, he was just a con artist with no real knowledge or connection to Lucy's disappearance. During this time, the police also traced Lucy's phone number, but the device had been turned off since the evening of July 1st. Fortunately, Louise provided the phone number of the mysterious man. From this, the police extracted the call history and discovered that the number belonged to a man named Joji Obara, 48 years old, living in Tokyo. With this name in hand, the police immediately began investigating Joji Obara's background and uncovered several suspicious details. He was a wealthy real estate businessman who frequently visited hostess clubs. Notably, Obara had been accused of harassment by several women, but the cases were always settled quietly, and he had no prior convictions. However, the police had yet to find any direct connection between him and Lucy's case. In August 2000, a 52-year-old man who had been previously questioned in connection with Lucy was found dead by suicide in his private apartment, which was covered with photos of Lucy and explicit adult magazines. Although the police did not release details, the media speculated that he was a suspect overwhelmed by fear and despair. However, this lead quickly reached a dead end as there was no clear evidence directly linking him to Lucy's case. By October 2000, Obara was arrested on charges of humiliating a woman in Canada. This gave the police grounds to search his properties. The search uncovered a horrifying trove of evidence, hundreds of videotapes showing unconscious women being sexually assaulted by him. All of these were carefully stored in his home. Additionally, during the investigation, the police found a photo of Lucy taken on July 1, 2000. The photo showed Lucy posing by the sea at sunset, apparently taken by Obara near his apartment. The turning point in the search came on May 9, 2001, more than 7 months after Lucy disappeared, based on the leads they had gathered. Police expanded their search to the Miura Peninsula, where Joji Obara owned a vacation apartment, at a natural cave along the rocky coast of Abaratsubo. The investigation team noticed that the soil and sand appeared to have been disturbed. After digging roughly 50 centimeters deep, they made a horrifying discovery: dismembered human remains, along with a solid block of concrete encasing the skull. The body was identified as female and had been dismembered into 8 parts. The head had been carefully encased in concrete to conceal the victim's identity. Police immediately cordoned off the scene and collected all nearby evidence. They found a bag of cement, rolls of tape, and pieces of tarp scattered near the burial site. One detail uncovered during a previous search of a nearby apartment was that the suspect had purchased a chainsaw shortly after Lucy went missing. The victim's body was then taken for forensic examination on February 10, 2001. Tokyo police held a press conference confirming that the body parts were those of Lucy Blackman, identified through dental records. The moment of identification was a devastating shock for Lucy's family and the entire investigative team. She had been brutally murdered. The lead investigator shared his first impression upon seeing the crime scene. "I had never witnessed such a brutal case in my career," he said. At the same time, he vowed to do everything possible to bring the perpetrator to justice. The rocky coast of Miura, once a picturesque tourist spot, had now become a haunting graveyard that shocked all of Japan. On April 5, 2001, after gathering sufficient evidence, Tokyo police officially arrested Joji Obara on charges of kidnapping, bodily assault, murder, and disposing of Lucy Blackman's body simultaneously. He was also prosecuted in connection with the death of Kurita Ridgway in 1992, as well as 8 other cases between 1996 and 2000. Backed by overwhelming evidence, after nearly a year of arduous investigation, the police finally unmasked the serial killer hiding behind a sophisticated facade. The arrest operation was conducted discreetly. The police pretended to summon Obara to the station to handle paperwork for an unrelated case, then suddenly handcuffed him in front of the media cameras. News of Obara's arrest immediately dominated the headlines in both Japan and the UK. The case then entered a new phase, bringing the criminal to justice, the case of Lucy Blackman. And the string of crimes committed by Obara led to a nearly decade-long legal process that drew intense public attention in both Japan and the UK. The trial was record-breaking, spanning 61 sessions from 2002 to 2007. Due to the enormous volume of evidence and the complexity of the case, throughout the entire process, Obara denied all charges related to Lucy. He only admitted to meeting her on the evening of July 1, 2000, but claimed that she was still alive when he left the next morning. Regarding other bodily harm accusations, Obara initially tried to evade responsibility but remained silent in many instances once the video evidence was presented in court. After 5 years of trial, the Tokyo District Court delivered a shocking verdict. Joji Obara was acquitted of all charges related to Lucy Blackman due to a lack of direct evidence proving his involvement in her murder. However, the court convicted Obara on all other charges, including 8 counts of bodily harm and the charge of coercion related to the death of Kurita Ridgway. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. When the verdict was translated into English, Lucy's mother broke down in tears right there in the courtroom, while her father silently expressed his anger, declaring, "Our Lucy has been denied justice." He was deeply outraged that the man who took his daughter's life was acquitted on paper. Many viewers in both the UK and Japan were stunned and even outraged at the Japanese legal system's heavy reliance on direct evidence. The Chicago Mirror commented, "This is the most shocking verdict in a system with a 99% conviction rate, as it is rare for a court to acquit in such serious charges." Immediately after the initial verdict, both the prosecution and the defense filed appeals. The Tokyo prosecutor's office requested a retrial to overturn the acquittal related to Lucy. Meanwhile, Obara's lawyer argued that a life sentence was too harsh for the bodily harm charges. The appellate trial at the Tokyo High Court concluded on December 16, 2008, with a partial reversal of the initial verdict in favor of the prosecution. The appellate court, presided over by Judge Hiroshi Kodono, found Joji Obara guilty of kidnapping and disposing of Lucy's body while upholding the life imprisonment sentence. However, similar to the lower court, the appellate court upheld the not guilty verdict on the murder charge due to insufficient evidence proving that Obara directly killed the victim, Joji Obara, now around 72 years old, remains serving a life sentence. In Japan, a life sentence means the prisoner may be considered for parole after a minimum of 30 years. But given Obara's crimes involving repeated assaults and serial killings, the chances of release are very slim. The Lucy Blackman case has become a powerful warning about personal safety when abroad. Lucy did nothing wrong. She was simply too trusting and unaware of the dangers. For young people traveling or working far from home, always stay vigilant when interacting with strangers. Especially avoid being alone one-on-one in isolated places with people you haven't known long enough. If Lucy had been more cautious, if she had brought a friend along or refused the invitation to a private place, things might have ended differently. That brings us to the end of today's case. What do you think about it? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any upcoming true crime stories on this channel.